Big time lightweight co-main event coming up this weekend. It's better than the lightweight feature that was a co-main event and the pay-per-view last weekend. We have Arman Tsarukyan taking on Damir Ismagulov with big time implications in terms of this division's ranking system. And if you look at it for Ismagulov, you look at it Arman Tsarukyan, their last times out, their opponents, the fans, Montreal Screwjobs. If you do look at it for Tsarukyan, most thought that he was able to get the win over Mateusz Gamrot his last time. And for Ismagulov, most thought that Guram Kutateladze was able to get the win against Ismagulov. But how it shakes out in this one, and by most, we'll go to the numbers in that one. If you look at it on MMA decisions, it was the majority, though, that did have it. But if you do consider it, Matt, when you do look at both these guys, for Arman Tsarukyan, he's been able to do what Damir Ismagulov couldn't do in the time that they've been in the UFC. Tsarukyan's continued to move and shake, and for Ismagulov, came in 2018, beats Alex Georges, and then takes a lot of time off between a lot of these fights to find himself into the rankings, beating Kutateladze his last time out. And now finally at 31, we're hoping, wheels are in motion. We'll get to see him a little bit more often.
I just think for Tsarukyan, he has had the better opportunities in the UFC. Like, you have to remember, this guy made his debut against the current champion of the weight class. So for Tsarukyan, he really did hit the ground running once he did come to the organization. And that's the thing. Like, some fighters get very difficult matchups. We just got done talking about Costa and Amir Albazi. Like, that's a really hard debut. Tsarukyan found himself in one of those kind of no-win fights, and although he didn't win the fight, he gained a lot of stock in the matchup, and that's the weird thing about Tsarukyan. He's looked his best in his two losses in the UFC, and that is weird to say. You're thinking, hey, he was on the wrong end of the result, but still, the way that he was able to compete with Gamrot and with Islam Makhachev, and just knowing how skilled they are, still gives you a lot of promise with Tsarukyan moving forward. And the thing that I liked out of Arman on his way up to that last fight against Gamrot was we had really seen an uptick in his ground and pound aggression. It wasn't just the wrestling, it was, hey, he's going to get you to the ground and really make you pay for all those moments on the mat too. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see how he judges the distance against a guy like Damir Ismagulov, because for Ismagulov, he does have really good range setting. I know it's weird, you think about him as kind of that well-rounded fighter, and yes, he is very well-rounded, but he has a phenomenal jab, and that's the great thing about Ismagulov. If he wants you to be far away from him, he's going to fight in a way that's going to keep you far away from him. If he doesn't want you far away from him, though, he does have the grappling in his back pocket, and that's why I think this fight's so fun. If they wrestle for 15 minutes, I genuinely don't know who's going to end out on top. Is Tsarukyan the better wrestler just for wrestling's sake? Yes. But has Ismagulov showed anything in his UFC tenure to think he's going to get held down for 15 minutes by a guy like Tsarukyan? Not at all. But the flip side is, I think Damir's at least a steadier fighter on the feet, but I'm not going to I almost said stand here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, he's going to win every moment on the feet, and that's why this is such a great
Ismagulov, go back to his M1 time when he was the champ over there, it really was that ground game, the ground and pound. He could really throw his opponents for a loop, and he's going for his 20th straight win if he gets this one against Arman Tsarukyan. For Damir, like, again, last fight, split decision against Guram. If you look at it, MMA decisions, 11-4 for Kutateladze. Judge Jason Stafen scored at 30-27 Ismagulov. That was his first decision with a major promotion since 2018.
You're saying it was a robbery. It was a close fight.
When he judged a Sage Northcutt fight. Before that, for Ismagulov, took on Rafael Alves. In that one, he got dropped by the first flurry that Alves threw. He ended up winning that round, and then in the third round, he kind of did tucker out a little bit. And for Ismagulov, same thing as Dricus du Plessis. What does du Plessis do in every fight? He heaves and hoes, and he sucks a lot of wind. For Ismagulov, he blinks a lot with his right eye. So if he starts to do that in the fight, don't get thrown off. It's something that he does very, very often. For Tsarukyan in his fight against Gamrot, 15-7 scored it for him over Gamrot. But out of all of these things, the most interesting part of this fight, Matt, Damir Ismagulov's fought out of a few different gyms, but for a lot of his career, he's fought out of Tiger Muay Thai. Good friends with Petr Yan. He's training at American Top Team for this fight. Arman Tsarukyan's training at a Tiger Muay Thai with Petr Yan for this fight. That's a huge advantage for Tsarukyan getting ready for Ismagulov to be able to have that wherewithal, the coach's knowledge to get ready for this one, just like Edmund Shabazian had last week getting ready for Dalcha Linjambula.
I think Edmund was going to win that fight probably no matter what. This is a unique fight, though, because, again, the winner has so much to gain, and the loser has a lot to risk, too, because think about how long it took these guys to reach just this point, just to co-main event a fight night. And yes, Arman has had a main event in the past, but still.
His last fight, yeah.
It has taken a lot for these guys to just reach this level in the MMA world. There's fighters who are nowhere near as skilled as they are, who they're in co-main events all the time. Carlos Felipe fought in like 10 straight co-main events, and I wouldn't say he is the level of fighter either one of these guys are. The weird thing is, though, It's going to be really interesting to see how Ismagulov's able to scramble with a guy like Tsarukyan, because up until this point, Ismagulov has been taken down, but then he'll be able to work on top, threaten with submissions. You get the idea. He's not a guy who stays stationary off his back. And for Tsarukyan, we saw him maybe struggles a little bit too far, but have a lot of those 50-50 exchanges with a guy like Gamrot in that matchup. So I'll be interested in two very distinct things in this fight. How long can Ismagulov keep this at long range? Because I think at long range, he has a distinct advantage. I do like his jab. I like his straight shots a lot too, because that's the thing about Tsarukyan. He's improved a lot on his striking in the UFC, but he's still a little wild with it. And yes, the wildness can be effective, but against a guy like Ismagulov, who stands on the outside so far away, I think he's going to be able to see a lot of those attacks coming, and I think he'll be able to counter from the outside. But if Tsarukyan can get on top and stay on top, it'll be a great position. Remember the Joel Alvarez fight? He got on top of him and beat him into the ground.
That boy brutalized that other fella.
Alvarez has really good defensive jiu-jitsu too. Like, probably the best part of his game is his jiu-jitsu off his back. Arman Tsarukyan made him look like he was just another guy.
But both of these guys excel where the other one struggles. For Damir, straight shot, Tsarukyan trying to get in through that distance, cut through it, he can get tagged up. For Damir, what does he struggle against? Oddly enough, the wildness. And for Tsarukyan in the fourth round of his fight against Gamrot, spinning back fist dropped him. And that really is the advantage that Tsarukyan has. It's a lot of odd angle shots. He will come at you from different levels as well, because he's going to threaten in that takedown. Whereas for Ismagulov, the fight against Georgies is kind of the hallmark. He just ground that guy out. Yeah. Georgies, we haven't seen him in the UFC since. So when you do look at this matchup, the odds, Ismagulov open plus 190, plus 147. Tsarukyan open minus 225, minus 177. We have a look at the total votes on Topology, and I have no gosh darn idea where any of these things have been today. I'm going to say over under, fans like Tsarukyan, I'm going to say over under 67.5% Tsarukyan.
I think they'll be over.
I think they're going to be over. Slightly over. 712 total votes. You feel good when they're that close. 69% Tsarukyan, 83% by decision for the 31% that have Ismagulov, 89% by decision. So the fans thinking this 3-round fight going to go to a decision. Tsarukyan's first 5-round fight of his, 21 fight pro career. That was his first 5-round fight, his last time out. But Ismagulov had all kinds of 5-round experience when he was with M1.
The thing with Tsarukyan was, though, looked great in a 5-round atmosphere. Yep. His pace did not fall off really whatsoever throughout that fight. That was a grueling fight between those two guys. Like, that was fought at a very high pace. I think Ismagulov is going to offer Tsarukyan a lot of trouble on the outside. Again, I really do think Arman, with his looping style of striking, is going to leave Ismagulov a lot of windows open to counter. But again, I kind of played my trap card there. Joel Alvarez is amazing at jiu-jitsu. Like, very, very, very high level at it. Can submit other high-level jiu-jitsu artists. He had nothing, and I mean nothing, in terms of grappling as an answer to what Arman Tsarukyan was able to do on the ground. Now, yes, was Ismagulov, does Ismagulov, have very good scrambles and very good counters to the wrestling? He does. But I don't think Ismagulov can get on top of Tsarukyan at all. Islam Makhachev wasn't able to do that, so I doubt Damir's going to be able to. So that's why I do like Arman in this fight. I think it's going to be fought at a very high pace, though. So I'll be interested to see if either guy does tire due to the pace, because I feel like the automatic answer would say, hey, watch out for Ismagulov late, but I could see a world where Tsarukyan is spending a lot of energy early, going for a lot of those takedowns. Ismagulov's doing a good job, kind of flowing with them, not really using a lot of his energy to defend, and maybe Tsarukyan is a little bit more tuckered out by the end of this match. But it's a very high level fight.
For Tsarukyan, I don't know if it was just because it was the first 5-round fight. You want to conserve his gas tank a little bit, but round 1, round 2 or Gamrot for sure. Round 3, maybe it was Gamrot, maybe it was Tsarukyan. Round 4, round 5, then Tsarukyan. So I did like that uptick as the fight went on. And for Ismagulov, we saw him slow against Alves in that 3rd round of his fight. We saw him dropped in the 1st round, but it was one of those ones like Jonathan Martinez, Alejandro Perez. You get dropped, and it was the biggest shot of the fight, or of that round, but Ismagulov won all of that round other than that drop. So it will be interesting to see who can get out to an early lead and who has to play catch-up, if they do it all. If we're right in a mirror going tit for tat, that's what makes it great too. I like Tsarukyan with the fact that I think he can dictate a lot more of the pace of this fight. But again, like you said, from distance, and I harped all over distance strikers and how good, that could play into their game plans last week at the pay-per-view, and that turned out pretty well for both of us. Ismagulov's one of those guys at distance that can really dictate where the fight takes place. So both of us going with Arman Tsarukyan. It's a really, really hard fight if you're trying to offer up a prediction, but a really fun one if you're trying to do a preview. I think that also, again, Master of Sport and Army hand-to-hand combat for Ismagulov, and that, again, trap card of I'm training at your gym now from Tsarukyan, trying to lay out those different tips and tricks. I think that could play out well for Tsarukyan too.
I just don't think this fight gets the respect it deserves, because we talk about a lot of divisions right now that are kind of going through this weird, hey, the prospects are killing off a lot of the more prominent names of the division. I thought Ismagulov Ismagulov and Tsarukyan wouldn't fight each other, they'd be matched up with some of the more prominent ranked fighters in this division. It's too bad that we are getting this fight where they are kind of 15 and 16 ranked, but this is as high level of a lightweight fight as you can possibly get. I agree with you. I also have Tsarukyan in the matchup, but if this was fight of the night, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If we had a great scramble fest where it's a back and forth fight on the feet, I think it would make for a great viewing. And again, hopefully both guys get the respect they deserve because they are high level contenders.
9 against 13 is Ismagulov training with Gamrot over at ATT. Both of us going with Tsarukyan in the matchup. Let us know again down below who you have in this one. Cannonier versus Strickland up at the top. Can't wait for it. Keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.